Hey, welcome back to Wook Plus. I am Weekend Wook, joined by Kev the Great Went and T, fresh off of Mondegreen. Man, we missed so many people. I got there and uh much to my initial dismay, but I think it turned into a blessing in disguise. I had zero service, couldn't even open an app. And so all of my plans of meeting up with people and seeing people went right out the window. But it was also cool to get fully immersed and hang out with these guys. How you guys
meeting
feeling this morning?
meeting people and doing any after shows or any sort of recaps was kind of put off too by not having any reception anywhere. So it kind of was the only semi downside I think to the whole weekend, which actually turned out to be an okay thing because we
Yeah,
were a
I
little.
was I was thinking this more last night. I tweeted that I met so many people and I am horrible at taking pictures. I got a picture of no one, but I'm living in the moment there. The last thing I'm thinking of is pulling a phone out and taking a picture. I met so many people, so many great people, so many people I didn't meet, and it was so fun. It's so
Yeah.
great. And met someone from Germany. I'm sorry I do not remember your name because I was in my element at the second, but the joke that we're international television apparently is true.
Oh yeah, we got Germany, Vietnam, and Canada that I know of, maybe more. Um, and then the other thing too, and we're gonna get into each of the nights and talking about the whole thing, but specifically about like doing the recaps while we're there. I'm really glad it worked out that way because I like talking on here about the experience, and if our experience was fucking rushing back and recapping and doing the show, then it would be incestuous. We'd just be talking about our thing. Instead, we did the thing. We did GA camping, doing the grilled cheese and hot dogs and PB&Js and drinking beers and walking 10 miles. It felt like maybe 20. I don't know. We walked a
So much
ton,
walking.
so much walking in the heat and then the rain and then the heat again and then the rain and all that stuff. I mean, it was a great time. So,
I woke
Yeah,
up
and I mean
wet.
even going between the heat and the rain, the weather was fantastic. Like we can't really argue. Like we got other than having to like postpone or do the one set yesterday, which ended up being really unnecessary because it was a beautiful evening and everything out. The weather really wasn't a problem. It was gorgeous. It was hot. The rain that came was necessary and very cooling and felt good. And then, you know, it all worked out well, I think. So it was
I, I
good. It was really
I
good.
tell you what, I bitched on Thursday online about staff and things like that. And this morning when I woke up, the thought popped in my head, have you ever been to a festival before, Kevin? And it's just the way things these go, and especially the first time these people are dealing with fish. I don't think that I don't like the idea of fish putting it out with AEG and having them run it. But other than that, it was really well run. Some of the food vendors were questionable inside, but yeah, I did get some sun, Daniel.
I think though, to that point, Kev, is it was their first time back doing this again, and it was with a new company and new companies working together and that whole thing. And there's rumors flying around today that they now have first refusal on the Firefly site because Firefly's not there anymore. So Fish technically can like start using having those dates or having that space to do more of this. And things we heard over the weekend was they weren't happy with it and they weren't going to come back and this and that. But then things today sound like they were kind of happy with it and they might come back. So everything's rumors at this point. But I would think that all in all, things went pretty well. I know there were some hiccups and some issues with some of the things with staffing and some of the ticket issues and this and that. But all in all, I think they pulled it off really well. There was no major fiascos. There was no major hiccups or disasters or anything like that happened. Everything I'm seeing and reading and hearing from everybody that was there is all extremely positive and happy and successful. So we'll see.
Mhm.
Hopefully they do it again or something. From our point of view and what we experienced, I can't say anything negative really about it. I had a great experience. The people I was with made the festival even better, which was all you guys. Yeah,
Zero
it was awesome.
complaints.
Right.
Honestly, like
Zero.
I know Kev, you had a hard time and you were off doing that thing. I wasn't part of that on Thursday, but from my perspective, the everything was great. The gates, the people at the gates were super friendly and cheering on. We got in seamlessly, we got out seamlessly. The art exhibits, holy shit. That cardboard town hall thing was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. And the moon, I'm so glad. So we scoped it out, right? On day one, T and I, Kev, you didn't come with us, right? No, I think T and I went early in the day
with
and
Frank.
scoped it out. And I didn't see the moon during the day because I think I went to grab a newspaper while you guys saw it. And I stumbled upon it at night while the music was going on and the whole experience. And to just walk into the woods and see this fucking giant moon float in there was the coolest thing, to just have it organically.
I loved it. You took me Saturday.
I took you there, and that was the first time you saw it. It was like, oh my God, look at that thing.
I stood under it. I was like, this is cool.
There was a lot of those little cool things where if you wandered around, you just sort of found little the serialist area, and just little things that were around that were so much fun to, if you wanted to escape the music, or you wanted to just go wander around, or if you wanted to go in the fest early like we did a couple times and explore those things and see them, and then see them later at night when they were lit up and glowing and stuff. It was really fun. They put a lot of care and love into a lot of the things there. It paid off.
Yeah. Right. And a note on Sunday, I saw a lot of consternation over on the Facebook about the short set and that it was sunny and all that. PHiSH was doing what they had to do to look out for everyone. I feel like it was a little confusing for the band too, that, because Trey, what did he say? There's something about the sun still out, or I'm waiting for the
what storm. They're telling him and stuff. I mean, they don't make that decision.
No, they don't. It was
the insurance company and management have to make that, and then the municipality. I mean, there's a lot of players involved, but it's not Trey, PHiSH, Mike, or Paige. Those are not the guys making that decision.
Decision. I think the biggest complaint on that, Kev, was none of us knowing that it was a one-set show, and everybody went in with the expectation that we're getting a two-set show, plus they'll probably play as long as they can until it starts raining or the weather turns. So we figured from 1 to 2, 2:15 would be first set, 2:30ish, 2:45 to 4:30 or something, we get an extended second set, and then an extended encore to 5. So everyone's expecting a 1 to 5, 4:30 kind of show to be done. To find out later that they had a hard time out at 3:30, that was the cutoff, no matter what. To learn that afterwards, or when you were in there, it was kind of oh, we're just getting one. Because when they hit 90 minutes on the first set, you're like, how long is their first set ever that they've played? Is this just going to go? And then once they kind of hit a little bit after that, you're like, oh, I see what's happening.
I would be mad if I had bought my single day ticket for Sunday.
Those people probably have the best clean, but if you were there Friday and Saturday, I'll speak for myself at least. I was so content and so
I was happy,
filled with everything and joy, and I kind of went into Sunday this is a bonus, right? Everything we're getting here just feels like the cherry on top. So,
and that's exactly what our good friend Steely Tom, who we were camping with, said that as well, Tim. I don't know if you had left already, but he was like, I looked at this Sunday show as a bonus. He was like, ours already filled up after Friday night, really, and then Saturday night show was sort of the icing on the cake, and then everything on Sunday was just okay.
You guys
why don't we look at Thursday's set list?
Yeah, we'll get into it and see what we can remember. I haven't been able to re-listen to all of it, and obviously wasn't taking notes there. But
real quick, the sound check we got to listen to on the Bunny, and they did a bunch of little covers and part of a Yes song, Little Zeppelin, My Sharona, The Pretenders. The sound check was really cool. If you can find it, take a listen to it.
But whatever that sound check was, kind of led you down the wrong path, because you're like, oh man, we're gonna get some crazy shit this weekend, or some of these fun songs and stuff. And then really, it was a very straightforward PHiSH weekend. I felt like it felt almost like a Dick's run. There was nothing very out of the ordinary festival. So it started off that way, but then I felt like we very much fell into some great playing and some great music. Just it was lacking a little bit of that special breakout festival. But Thursday night was a fun start.
I think that the idea of the sound check was just to feel loose and to get, what I mean? To make it take the pressure off, because I think a lot of times when you have these big events, the first day is a little bit rough. There's a little bit of a choke start, just for the pressure. So I think not trying to work, because a lot of times they use sound checks to work shit out and to hack, actually grind the wheel a little bit. I think this was more so, hey, let's just get loose and actually check the sound.
Right. Yeah. They didn't play any songs that they were going to bust out, a couple dry run throughs of Gula or something.
They should have run through Bowie. Fucking disaster.
We'll get to that. But you know what? they opened up with the Mondegreen song, so good for them.
Yeah, and it sounded really good. I like it in the one spot. I know they always hit it in two, but the whole place just instantly fell into dancing and set the vibe for the whole weekend. I felt really solid.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good way to open it. It definitely like sort of just dropped you right in, like, all right, let's start grooving. Let's go. We're here.
Yeah. I don't really remember the Back on the Train being anything special. And you guys can come back if you want, but the Wolfman's is really where I felt like things started to kick in, and
Right.
this is where you realize that it was going to be this night I thought was much more of like a funky, at least especially the set, a funky set, and I thought it was a really exceptional Wolfman's. Very cool jam.
Yeah, some interesting spaces in the 3 spot. The 3 spot has been big this summer. The 2 or 3 spot has gotten, and they got out there a little bit, loosened everybody up, and I think you're exactly right. They were clicking. They finally were like, all right, festival time. We got the jitters off the top. Let's get down to work.
Yeah, for sure.
Best song of the night, easily. Like, I hate to say that they peaked with the third song, but that was the best song in my opinion of the night.
Wow.
Like, I really like that. I think the early jam was kind of that feeling it out jam, but it was so good. Like, it really went places and it got deep, and it was a really good 3-slot song that I was like, okay, now we've started. Like, the Back on the Train, to your point, Tim, was nothing special. I felt like it was just another stretch out warm up song. It was interesting to have it in the 2 slot as that song, but it kind of fit after Moma very perfectly. It just kind of kept that dance groove going before they dropped into the funk of Wolfman's, which was great. So it was but yeah, I thought that was the highlight of the first night.
And
sure.
and then more funk. Then we had more funk,
Yeah,
because we want the funk.
More funk. Right, which is exactly what I want on an opening day, right? Like you have different flavors of fish. You have the funky fish, the like just dance party. Those two are very related. The rock and roll, the spacey, trippy one. And I think for an initial show, this was exactly what I was looking for and really hit it.
Right. I love Roggae out in the open field with their voices floating through and the gentle music. It really is a perfect slow song, quote unquote slow song for the set. And groove taking the air. There was a light breeze blowing. It had started to cool down a little, and I was like, yeah, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah. Hey T.
Yeah.
Yep. You might need to mute in between your takes for a little bit. Alex is coming through a little bit.
Uh-huh.
All right. I don't know if we got to hit every song since we're doing 4 shows, but I want to talk about this Wave of Hope, because I don't know if it was me or what I was partaking in, or if it was like this for everybody. But this was the what do you call that? Dawn, or like the twilight song, where the start of the song, it was still light out. You still see the clouds. It was actually a pretty clear day, but like the sky and a couple of clouds, and you couldn't really pay attention to lights. And by the end of the song, the trees were lit up. It was dark out, and the lights were really prominent. And I felt like the playing was so in tune with the sunset and how the sky was changing, that at each of those phases, as it went and like it started to get darker and the sky got a little pinker and then darker, and then the trees, was just masterful. I thought like this whole jam was really incredible visually.
Worked better for me than the Divided Sky that was trying to do the same thing. I really think the Wave of Hope, it did exactly what you said. And then once it was dark, we moved to the dark song. But I'll let T, if he wants to chime in on Wave of Hope.
The Divided Sky was a little bit different spot in the set. Like, Wave of Hope hit that timing like perfectly, because it was right before that thing. But I want to go back, because NICU is one of my favorite songs. Like, I love that song. It's one of my top like PHiSH songs. I just love it. So getting that night one at the festival made it made me so happy. Like, that was like, after the Wolfman's jam, I was like, okay, this is like really cool. We got a funky bitch, cool. Really, okay, cool. But then they dropped into NICU, and I was like, oh, just you get those satisfying feelings. And like, I was like, okay, this is really night one. I'm getting one of my faves. This is fantastic. So that was really cool. Dropping into Wave of Hope right after that. I thought the Wave of Hope after that was jamming, though. Like, it was up there with that Wolfman's. To Tim's point, I think Tim and I actually talked about it every single night at that time of night, how cool the setting was and how the temperature would feel at that time, and then just the
Mhm.
lights. Like, I was really surprised. We'll get into it on Sunday, but I was really surprised at how good the lights looked during the day, during that day set. Like, they looked really cool. They kind of popped with the the black
With the
background
black
behind them,
background helped a
and
lot,
then the
yeah.
light around them. Like, it was really cool. And that was the way like the sunset golden hour was every night. Like, that perfect lighting hitting those lights. It just looked so cool, and it was right before he would light the trees. So it was just it
Yeah.
was a really cool aesthetic that was
CK5
going on
needs
every night.
trees. CK5
Yeah.
needs trees every night to light up. That was the coolest thing, watching the trees, because you'd start to see little faces and things in them.
Yeah, it was very cool. And then to get that sand as sort of the closer, it was sort of like you felt like Wave of Hope was going to be the one, and then they dropped into the sand as sort of a bonus track of that set. And I
Nice
always
and
love it
dark.
when that
Sun's down.
you
Let's
go out
get
on that. Yeah.
right. Sun's down. Let's get dirty. 16 minutes. For me, that this is the standout of the first set. I know your Wolfman is there too. But yeah, I love what they did. Great way to end it. Put the little exclamation point on it.
In an outdoor festival set like this, or I guess it's the same at the sheds, but especially on the outdoor because the band is outdoors, right? Like you forget how much of the outdoors the sheds actually block. It definitely feels almost like the set break or like the vibe switch is at sunset, not at the set break. Because I would put the Wave of Hope thematically and just tonally and the way it was received, Sand and Wave of Hope in with the second set. Like it had very much that same vibe. Whereas before that was all the funk dance party, which is such a cool thing, you know, to have that because you don't get it that often anymore. You know,
Yep.
Dick's, Mexico, but most of the venues they don't have that these days. All right, let's get into the second set because this was a big
Yeah.
one. The second time playing What's Going Through My Mind, and I guess he thought since the first one had Billy on it, the second one we need to take it way the f out there, and had I thought just a really stellar monster jam. I think it was like 24 minutes or something. We don't have the times here, so we're not going to be able to fully analyze it. But that one I remember went the
Mind
distance.
blowing. Mind
Yeah.
blowing. It's a fantastic song. It's got a great lyric, so much going on. You can listen to it repeatedly and not just know everything's right. And then they totally leaned into the jam, and I can't wait to see where this one's going to go. I think it's replacing, I think it's the next big one. Like Wave of Hope was the last
Yeah.
one that, busted out. I think this is the one that's going to shoot into the stratosphere
Another
at a very
one.
high percent.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I don't think it's replacing. I think it's another one because I think Ruby Waves, Wave of Hope, they're still going to be able to do their thing.
It's the new shiny object for Trey. He's like,
Right.
oh, I got a new
Look
one.
at this one.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very fun song, and it was cool to see their version of it. Like, I love that the first time they played it was with Billy Strings on it. That was really cool to introduce it and get it out there. But this was such a different version without him on it, and like they were really able to play with it and do their thing and put the PHiSH stamp on it, and it really sounded cool. And in that opening slot too, to just sort of put it there to see how it played there, you know what I mean? To like kind of see, does it work in the slot? Can we get out of it easy enough into another song? And I think it did. I think it worked really well in that spot. Like, it got everybody excited to start that second set, and the way they played it and what they did with it really got you excited because you're like, oh shit, this song has legs and potential for what it could be. So I thought that was cool.
And then we got Chalk Dust. It wasn't a super drawn out big one like we've had a couple of this year, but I thought what they did in the 10 or so minutes that they did it was really interesting and locked in. And I maybe the second set of Friday and Saturday, well, all of Saturday, I think was the best play. Wait, this is Thursday. I think Thursday and Friday, right? Those some of that playing is some of the best playing I've heard and jamming I've heard them do. And I think it gets overshadowed because there weren't like the 40+ minute jams, but they had really excellent moments, gems hidden in these. And I think this 1-2 punch was one of those examples.
The Chalk Dust goes back to our recurring theme that sometimes you only need 10 minutes. You can say everything you need if you're using every second of that 10 minutes. And I feel like this Chalk Dust did do that.
Except Jesse.
and they let it go into light. Not
Who
a
cares?
fan.
Light's fine.
Well, I'm gonna agree with Kev. This was this was a rough patch for me. Like the light Caspian was where I wandered. I had to go pee, so I took a piss during light. I went and wandered the site a little bit. Went back to the moon, walked around Caspian. I was like, oh god, now I have even more time to walk around and check out.
Wait,
some
were
stuff.
we together?
Then?
Yeah.
I took off during light by myself, and
I did too. I was gonna say I ended up at the moon during Caspian. Well, that's funny.
I made it back towards the end of Caspian, and then when they went into Crosseyed, it was very exciting. But again, a short one, and I would say almost in that Crosseyed camp, they didn't do what they did with the chalk dust and get it all out of it that they could have. I felt like there was a lot left on that Crosseyed, and it felt a little rushed and a little compacted, so to speak, and didn't quite get the extended love that you often want from out of the Crosseyed. So I thought that was a little, especially because that was, of those three songs, Light, Caspian, Crosseyed, I would have rather seen a shorter Light and a shorter Caspian, and then jammed out the Crosseyed. We kind of did it in reverse and did the other two jammed out a little bit more. But yeah, that was really the only time, if I'm thinking back, of the weekend that I was like,
I thought
I
Caspian.
thought the whole fourth quarter though had that kind of feel because Lonely Trip did nothing to bring it back. Crosseyed kind of did, but not all the way. And then Lonely Trip is like, what a time! Like, you know what I mean? It's a fine song, but it's a bad choice for that placement.
Dude, Caspian though is such a consistent landing spot. I guess because of the key it's in or the chords, that out of so many jams they land perfectly into Caspian. And I think that's the saving grace of that segment there. And the jam was good, Mike. You're right. The light jam was pretty good.
It was fine.
I liked the light, but I was just exploring and not like it's a piss break song. No, but I'm saying it wasn't like, oh, this is a piss break song. Let me explore. It was like, this is really cool. And the cool thing about this venue is you could hear the music perfectly everywhere. So it wasn't like, oh, let me go now while they're playing light. It was like, this is something I want to go look, stare at the eyeballs in the trees, while listening to this jam.
Right. Lonely Trip, like you said, and then Everything's Right really is your closer. Come on, man.
Kev's all Debbie Downer now. Now he's gonna make me artificially fluff this shit just because he was so angry on Thursday. He was all worked up.
Tequila will do it.
I don't even think you were in there for half of the song.
I think Everything's Right in general is not a great choice for closing the sets, and I'm not in love that they've been doing it. But this jam was sick, and they got it there in the end. You know what I mean? So it's like if I were like analyzing set list construction and like the choice, no, I don't think this one too at the end was great. But the playing, I do think, was pretty good at the end of it. I remember
end of the day though.
I
tell you what, end of the day, I think that the second half of this second set is really my weakest spot, and after this, they nailed everything from here on out.
For sure. I agree. Completely. And Everything's Right is not a closer. We've talked about this before. It's just not. Like, I don't care like what you think of the song or how good it jams or what. It's just not a closer. It's great. It does get places. It's a good jam. It's fantastic.
For Antelope. That's a cry for an antelope.
It should be. I mean, it's fine being. I don't care where. It's not a closer. Like we talked about how they opened the Sphere with it. I actually
should have put Antelope there. That would have been perfect.
Perfect place for Antelope, or after Everything's Right got into that. But it's just not a closer. It's not a show closer. It's not a set closer. It just doesn't belong in that spot. So yeah. But then
fantastic encore. Fantastic encore. I mean, and Trey changed the lyrics for Salt again to some about I saw you or something about looking out at the crowd at a festival.
I gotta say, one of the themes of this weekend or this festival for me was consistently great encores, right? Like some of the first and second sets were up or down, but I think all four of the encores, maybe not the last one. I loved the Fuego Jam, but it left me wanting more. But the other three encores were just perfect to me.
Yeah, I agree. The encores all weekend were fantastic, and this one I mean, I like this encore better than the entire second set, if I'm being honest with you. Like, this was such a great encore. The Saw It Again was so much fun. Great place for it. Really fun, like, opening night thing. And then the Possum, like, I mean, come on, Possum fucking rules. Like, such a great.
Yeah.
And you think that's
And
going to be it.
Slade, the nod to driving there. Slade, your
It's
nod
such
to
a great
driving.
song to, like, go out on that you think, okay, Possum's perfect. And then they drop the beautiful beginning of Slave after it, after you're like so revved up in Possum, and then to get like that beginning, it's just such a cool, like, you know how you're always like, oh, another song, like that one when they drop into Slave, you're like, oh yeah, like now we're gonna get this like beautiful ending to the night under these like gorgeous conditions of the sky and like all these people here. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Radio, I tell you what happened. I drank a bunch of tequila, tried to find a pod that I couldn't find, and the staff were not trained. Basically, they didn't know where anything was, and I got in my own head and got frustrated.
Okay, now I'm going to tell you the real story. Kev drank a bunch of tequila. Also, didn't want to have the Mondegreen app because he's an anarchist, but he's an anarchist with anxiety. So he was trying to find something without an app and got mad at the volunteers and the staff who were trying to direct people and had no idea what he was talking about. But it all worked out. By Friday, you were happy as a clam.
I gotta run through a couple of these too real quick, Tim, just so I could answer some. 10, I don't know how we did it either, but I got to tell you, it was probably the most comfortable I've almost ever been camping. Like, I don't know what it was, but I am less tired and exhausted after this run than I've been after any Dick's run. And I stay in a house with my buddies and have amenities at Dick's and stuff. And this, I felt great every day. I mean, we go to bed at 2. We wake up between 6 and 7, so you're only getting like 5 hours of sleep or so around there because you wake up to Kevin hacking and talking at like as soon as he was up. As soon as Kevin was up, the campsite was up. So like you would get up early, and
he's like our rooster.
He is our rooster. He's like instead of crowing, he's hacking, and like so like it was fine though. I mean, I gotta tell you, I went into it completely freaked out too. I was like, how am I gonna survive fucking 5 nights of camping or whatever? It was a piece of cake. Like I said, our crew made it that way too. We had the chillest, most awesome people with us, and you guys were great. We had plenty of food, we had plenty of drinks, it was awesome. Like I don't know how we did it either, but it was awesome. So I agree with this too. They didn't really have that night where they goofed and sort of like did that silliness. It felt very straightforward. It felt very, like I said, it almost felt like a Dick's. It felt very professional. Like they weren't like in festival fish fun mode. It just felt like very much like we're gonna jam the shit out of some of these songs and play them kind of straight down the line with a little bit of jam to them, and you're gonna like it. And it was awesome. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing.
One part of the reason of that, I think, was they left Friday and Saturday available for the secret set. You could tell with the way they slotted it. And I think the weather was lingering on them, on their minds. So once, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like if they had a full night on Sunday, we would have gotten a sillier night.
A deeper show, I agree. And the eyeballs were put up by PHiSH because those were in when we first went in the first night, and those were done by them. Everything was pretty much done by them, I think, as far as everything inside.
And those trees had lights on them that were synced with the lights. Not like lights shining on, but lights wrapped around them and through them like Christmas lights.
And they would go vertical.
Yeah, and they go up and down like springs and shit.
And let me tell you, after the show that night, I spent an hour in that forest just sitting under the trees watching the lights because of the substances I was on, and it was one of the best experiences. Like, that was incredible. It was awesome.
I went back to them a couple of times. I was like,
I know. They were great. Great for hallucinogens, I'll tell you that.
All right, you want to go into night 2?
Let's do it. Yep.
All right. How do I do that? Where's the
bump?
There we go. All right. We're all professionals at this point. We're all locked in. We got a good night's sleep. The excitement was through the roof. And I think this show delivered on all counts. Bouncing was a weird way to start, I thought, but it was fine, right? It was fun.
Fun fish. Fun fish. Old fun fish.
I wondered in the moment whether it ever happened before. And then one of you two said to me, yeah, probably when you saw them back in the 90s, they opened with it. And I was like, you're probably right. They did open with it.
But what I loved about that opening was it kind of set that first set tone. Like, you got a bouncing you got a Free, you got a Divided Sky, you got a Reba, you got a Twist, you got a Zero. It was very 1-0 heavy. It was very much in that. I mean, I loved it. It was such a great first set. Like I was beyond excited with some of the things that went down in this. So having that bouncing, looking back on it, it could have gone either way. You could have been like, oh boy, where are we leading into this? But I thought the bouncing was a perfect setup for the whole feel and theme of that first set.
Yeah, I
Kill
agree.
Devil Falls. That's a great second song, and I love that they let it go and gave everybody the stat. They're like, here's the one for your stats, everyone.
What? That's not like it's a hard song to get, is it?
A lot of people chase that one, man. They do it
Kill
once
Devil
every couple
Falls?
of years. No,
Are you talking about Peaches or Kill Devil
Peaches. I'm talking
Falls?
about Peaches. I
Oh,
was
well,
talking
why
about
are
that
you
they went into Peaches.
goddamn, man. You just jump in and you're like, fuck Kill Devil Falls. Let's talk about Peaches.
Well, I mean, I said it was a great choice for the second song, and then they left it unfinished to give everybody their stat.
Yeah, that was not
Give 'em the
very
Peaches.
clear how you communicated.
No, that was not.
That
I
was not
mumbled it.
That was
Mumbled
not.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Tim did get his Peaches after he mentioned it and then said we weren't going to get it. So I think it was very fun. I mean, it's very rare that you get two Peaches in a tour in the same year. I mean, that was very shocking that was what they busted out, I guess you could say, or played, because they'd already played it. So like you kind of were thinking it was off the table and what else are we going to get in there? For them to jump into it, like you'll take a Peaches anytime. Like that's fine. I think that was like my fourth one. I'll take it any day of the week. It's a great tune, but it was
much better than the other one too. The run through that they did earlier in the tour, that it was setting up for this, and I feel like he nailed it as close as you're going to get to nailing it at this point.
Well, I think that was why he played it before too. Was he needed to play it before playing it at a festival? So good on them for doing that and doing a run through first. But yeah, great. I mean, yeah, great.
I thought it was exceptional. And Free was a good way too to keep the energy going, because after Peaches just ripped, Free had such a big entrance, and I love when they hit a note and the whole 40-something thousand people erupt at the same time, and the Peaches had that reaction. And then not everybody was super jazzed about Free, but it was a good enough choice that it didn't kill. I guess that's it. It's not that it like injected more gas into it, but it didn't kill the energy.
I felt like it did when Trey yells Free and everybody throws their hands up, and it's very unifying. It's like it's the we're all here together song. Everyone knows Free. Everyone likes Free.
It's always that. It's one of the great re-entry songs that they have too. When they go off and jam, and then you come back into that boom, and you get the mic bombs and you get that thing. It's like that great re-entry. So it's always like, and that Free, like to your point, Kev, it's kind of that like cathartic. Yeah, we're back after the jam feeling. Yeah, I thought that one kind of did a good job. Yeah.
Mike sounded so good at Mondegreen. They had him tuned perfectly in the mix. What, you didn't think so, or you did?
No, he was a star.
Oh, star. I thought he was saying tar.
No. And I'll tell you this, we talked about this at the campsite. Steely, Tom, and Steph a lot too. Where was Paige? Paige is playing.
He was down in the
Paige
mix.
Playing was phenomenal, and he was great but he didn't sing one song all weekend. We didn't get a Paige song all weekend. It was all Mike. Like we got so many Mike songs, and we didn't get one solid Paige song. So it was very weird. Like I'm wondering. We had tons of jokes about this and talking about this, and I was like, well, maybe it's because Mike can't sing at high altitude, and Paige will take over at Dick's, and like he'll have his songs at Dick's, and Mike got the festival. But it was very weird not to get any Paige songs, but his playing was fantastic. There was a couple of times where him and Trey would trade off with each other playing. And I was
we got the riff. Right.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, at least they're bringing Paige in that way. But I thought it was very funny that he never got anything.
I thought so I for Divided Sky, I got Ben's was next to us, and her and I, this was our first festival. We both, been to a bunch of shows, but there was a moment we were talking to her about. I was like, this is one of those songs that you've always heard for the last 20 years growing up as a PHiSH fan, the festival skies, right? Like Clifford Ball went, all of them, right? And it's something that you just hear over and over and over again. So this was like a very special like moment when it started. I don't know if my expectations were too high, or maybe I think you were onto something too with the timing and the Twilight. I thought it was beautiful, but I don't think it had the same impact that it could have had if it were a little bit later and waited for like the split of the sky naturally. That said, I did get goosebumps when they the silent part and the screaming and how long they held it. So I think overall I think it was great, but
I thought it was a perfect place after the rock and kill devil, the free, the peaches, all that loud, rock and music, to take a deep breath, close your eyes, and just let it wash over you. And again, the pause was perfect. Lots of screaming. Gotta love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great song. I was very excited to get it there too. Like, it was very much a good spot for it after the free. But I think part of the problem, Tim, was we knew they were under not the gun, but everything was timed out on this night because they had to be ready for the secret set later. So everything was kind of in a time, where
over 10:15. We were done at 10:15 or something.
Yeah, it was really short.
Yeah. And so it was very, you didn't realize that when it was going on, and you were kind of like, oh, why didn't we get this, or why wasn't this a little bit pushed further, or why, you know what I mean? But then when you go back and look at why, especially like when he started talking in the second set about the secret set coming up later, you're like, oh, okay, now I understand why everything's going to be sort of to time, or like the way things are going to be tonight. I think Divided Sky was one of those that got pushed into sort of that weird spot, because you could have easily switched a couple of those songs around and put
Mountains
it
in the
later
Mist
to
with
match
it or
that.
something.
Yeah.
Well, what happened though, and I think it worked out in the end, is Reba filled that spot with the Twilight, and it was perfect, almost perfectly played. It was another really clean. So in the end, I got the classic composition, the beautiful with the transition and the lights. It just didn't seem, for me, I guess I would have rather have had Divided Sky, because I really can't overstate how magical that Twilight period is at the end of the first set. Like, as good as they or bad as they played, it didn't matter.
It was
I mean, the temperature change, the light change, the lighting of the trees, the lighting from Kuroda, everything in those last 2 songs of the first set.
They forgot how to whistle.
So special.
They forgot how to whistle.
It was like perfect. No, Kev, they didn't need to whistle because of the timing. We just talked about that. Like, they didn't have time to whistle.
Kev's like, I'm not going to listen to the flow of this. I'm just going to add my little quips in wherever I want.
I think the tube following the Divided Sky was a good call too. It got you back up. It got things going. Like, everybody always loves a tube. A compact jam. Didn't jam out, but had a good compact jam in the middle of it that does what tube jams do. And then having him come out of that, and then going into Mountains in the Mist, another one that they just played. I was a little surprised to get it, that we were getting another one this soon, and like right here, especially in the spot. It was kind of an odd.
I began to lose interest. I began to lose interest with the tube, Mountains in the Mist. But the twist character Zero was a fantastic 1-2 punch, and I don't think I've ever seen a first set twist before.
The Reba was fantastic
good though.
Like Tim was saying,
I loved it. It was
it was great.
Yeah, great 1-2 punch to end the set. Fantastic. I know people poop on character Zero, but I am a champion of that song. So
great closer. Yeah. Great closer.
Yeah,
great
and it had a little extra mustard. It had a nice, it was more reminiscent of the Mansfield one where they really got out there with it than the other ones they did on tour that were more the standard version.
Are you talking about me? Are you being like that?
What?
Because I said it wasn't the best closer. I still like it as a closer. I just said it wasn't the best closer.
If you look on Twitter and search for character Zero, every tweet's people pooping on it.
It's so good though. It's such a great closer that we always say, and the Festival Zero, where you have all those people like kind of like doing the, and like singing back to you and doing that. It had to be so cool to look out over like 40,000 people fucking rocking out to like Rock and Roll Fish. I love that song as a closer. It's great. It's great in arena, and it's great at a festival. Like, it just gives you that what you wanted as a set closer.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I want to for a second talk about set 2 holistically instead of like our line by line way we go. We can go through each section, but this like nesting doll style of Inception sandwiches that they did in the second set was one of, if not the highlights of the whole festival for me. The transitions were all fantastic, and the choices, throwing the Your Pet Cat in the middle of the Pillow Jets jam, which was in the middle of the Ruby Waves jams, and then eventually bringing it all the way back to No Man's. That whole thing was just and truly inspired. And all of that, the reason I bring this up, I think was set up by the choice to start off the set with My Friend, which was just absolutely killer. Such a good choice and a beautiful song.
Starter, a kick ass, because you've never really thought about it, but the way My Friend opens with that, the open, how I always talk about it, it's got the twist in it. It's like opening with that, it almost felt like the Kurt With, or like like it has that element to it where it's really fun to like open with the instrumental, and you're like, all right, and My Friend's got that great twist in it where it does go from good to evil and stuff. So then getting that twist in it is such a great way to open the set. Like it was just such a perfect fuck yeah, like this is fantastic.
Shorter.
And then
I was gonna say shorter
than the last couple. Right out of it was phenomenal. Like you just went right into it and was like, okay, now we're gonna get a real jam here. Like this is gonna go somewhere. And then where it went to was a Ruby Waves, which you're like, but once you get through those lyrics and get into that jam, this was a fucking raging set. Like it's just unreal.
Yeah, and it was shorter, Kev, but it was still jammed. Like it wasn't the traditional my friend without the jam. Like we got double digits with it.
Right. I had visions of like having the 20-minute one, because they've been pushing 17, 18 minutes with it. I was like, we're going to get the one that's just to the moon.
Kev's over here being a size queen, taking out.
I am being a size queen with My Friend. Yes, with My Friend, I will be a size queen. You know what? I love the whole sandwich thing. I thought it was fantastic. My only knock for that whole sandwich, the No Man to No Man, is I wanted more Ghost from my Mondegreen Ghost. But the Pillow Jets, Your Pet Cat might be one of the best things them do live. It was all of a sudden there. I'm wondering if they knew they were doing Your Pet Cat, or if that was Page's song. That's where he threw it out there. He's like, my turn.
Yeah, and he was having a really fun time with it too. So actually, to that comment before about them having like a silly, fun, joking set, like not in the traditional sense and not with like the vacuum cleaner and doing shit like that, but like musically, there was a lot of inventiveness and interesting shit happening in this set for sure.
Yeah, and they were having a little bit of fun.
No Man's through the second Ruby Waves is all 3.0, 4.0 songs, which is fantastic. That I hate the lyrics to Ruby Waves, but beyond that, it was such a solid hour 10 of music, whatever it ended up being.
Yeah, all of those jams were perfect length too. Because if you put Pet Cat with Pillow Jets, which that's what it felt like in the space, right? Was a Pillow Jets jam with Your Pet Cat over it. That would put that at like a 15, 16 minute mark, which was the same as Ruby Waves. And like it was very interesting, but that didn't lull too long, right? There was no, hey, we're just gonna see here. They kept going into something new and keeping the energy up.
And I think to Kev's point, Ghost was the only thing that suffered in this because it got put like any other song that you could have put in that you would have accepted kind of in that role, sort of shorten it, truncate it down a little bit to let it be part of that jam and then to drop back in the jam. Ghost is one of those songs where you want a Ghost jam, a separate kind of its own thing, and then let it go into something after 10, 15 minutes of it. So to get kind of that truncated Ghost in there was a little bit of a disappointment. You still got very excited when it went into it, in that Ruby Waves jam, and he dropped into Ghost. You're like, fuck yeah, we're getting a Ghost now. It was just a little disappointing when it dropped out of the Ghost into No Man so quickly, and you're like, oh man, I wish that would have gone there.
I have Ghost envy from earlier in tour. I have Ghost envy from whatever that 20+ minute one was.
On top of that, though, to go back into that No Man to finish that up, and then to get the cherry on top of not just the set, but of the show, one of the best Fluffheads they have done in years. I mean, Trey crushed it. You can go back and listen to it. Minimal flubbing. Like No, I know we talked about him nailing Peaches. There was one section he fucked up in Peaches, and we can skip it because it was the second time playing it. It sounded good. Everyone got it. Fluffhead, listening back to it like 3 times already, it is one of the best. Like, he crushes it, and it was fantastic. The end of it, the Fluffhead White Lights, there's nothing better than Fluffhead White Lights, especially at a festival. Like, just absolutely head exploding, energy rising. Like, it was just hearing him scream his fluffy, 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 fluffy headline had me just chills, like almost on the verge of tears. Like, it was perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I remembered when because you and I were right next to each other. I don't, Kev, you were behind us, I think, but I remember looking over and you looked how I felt, and I don't know how I looked, but I saw your face, like looking at it, and I didn't even say anything to you because I didn't want to interrupt it, but I was like, "That's how I feel." And then, but I didn't remember honestly the night of it being perfect. I remembered it feeling very emotional and powerful. But then we listened to it. This was one of the few songs we listened to the next day in camp, all clear headed, eating lunch or whatever. And like we kept looking at each other, like they're not making a single flub or mistake. Like this is literally like perfect. And that's so cool to at this late in the game hit these songs so cleanly, and also without losing the emotional side of it and the impact of them.
Crushed it. Just absolutely
great encore.
And then to get this encore, I mean, this, to your point, you said before, Tim, the encores. You look at all the encores on paper, minus Sundays, which still rips, but you're like, oh, and a first ever Fuego encore, so that's kind of something in its own. But Ghost first tube. I mean, Hood first tube. Come on, like Hood to come out of that encore. Hood. It's not Ghost there. It's Hood, and perfect. Like again, when they kicked into it.
Right, we got 4 of the big songs from 1.0.
Yeah.
We got the Divided Sky, the Reba, the Fluffhead, and the Hood all in one set. First tube, Train into Glory. You knew it was coming one night. Thank you. Then the weird cryptic message, and one of the best things I've seen PHiSH do. I just that third set, man, wow. What if they did that? What if they just came out?
You forgot running through the 1.0s. You also got a Ghost in that show. Granted, it wasn't a long Ghost, but you still got a Ghost in there too on top of. So like, I mean, it was a solid lineup of fucking songs mixed in with all those 4.0. So if you look at the set list and you're like, oh, you got like a Ruby Wade's Pillow Jets, Pet Cat, No Man, like, okay, cool. But then you're like, oh shit, you also got a My Friend, a Ghost, a Divided Sky, a Fluffhead, and
but I wouldn't say that's like the big 4 though, because like the next night you had the Mike's Groove and the Tweezer and the M. I think they did a good job of hitting the pillars in each of the night, and then also jamming out and filling in
things around it.
Modern
All right,
jam.
so for this third set, nobody was really sure what was going on. They dropped down some screens.
Kev,
it was
slow
almost,
down, buddy.
I'm excited. I'm very excited.
All right, fine. Tell us about the third set.
I feel like everything they learned at the Sphere, they figured out how to use in another setting with what they did with it. We'll get into all the visuals, but just musically, what if they did that every night? What if they just came out and played sets that were completely improvised for an hour and 10 minutes? Would they sell any tickets? Because I would try to be on the rail
that's what
every
he was
night
excited
for that.
about. I heard you ask people this live, like not live, but like in real life. And I was like, Kev, you're not on the show. Dude, he went up to somebody, he was like, let me ask you a question. And I was like, oh no, it sounds like, it's like, what if they did this?
He's had it written down, ready to go. That's why he's been jumping at the bit to get to
right. He literally flew through the last like second set in encore. But
that is something I will listen to again. I will seek out that third set and put it on as background music to go through again.
We already have. We listened to it like 4 times in the camp the other day. Like, are you kidding? Yes. I mean, I can't believe you just skipped over that encore so quickly, though. I mean, this was probably the best encore of the run to me. I think, like, it shredded. It was absolutely incredible, and that Hood,
so good.
The Hood jam was so good. It built to something so beautiful, and then to go right into like Trey's rock and roll. He was doing his dancing up there. It was just so much fun, and then setting up. I mean, it was funny hearing him set it up and come out and do his like little. People are wondering about the secret set and blah, 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 but it cracked me up when he's like, secret set. Like that'll always make me laugh when he
I'm only telling that one guy. And I was like, thanks, Trey. I won't tell anybody.
secret set. But yeah, doing what they did to that was incredible. I thought of that too, Kevin. I was like, what if they just did something like that at the Sphere, and you go into the Sphere with just like the blank Sphere canvas and let the because then you don't have, it doesn't matter what the graphics are, right? Like you can just play whatever it is to them jamming. And I think they definitely pulled a little of that element from the Sphere when they did the graphics above them on those screens, which were just absolutely epically incredible. And to start out those jams, you know, the acoustic into the electric, back into the acoustic. And I know we argued a lot about whether or not it was an ambient jam. I didn't remember as much ambient in it as when we went back and listened to it a couple
Because it
times.
was ambient. That's the whole point.
There was
If
was
it's
a lot of
truly
it,
ambient, you lose track of it.
but it comes back into it. Like it would have those shredding moments and then drop back into that ambient and then come back out into the shredding moment and then back into the ambient. So it was like very, very just absolutely incredible what they did with that. And to take like a blank canvas and create something like that, like it makes you wonder what they do when they're together. You know what I mean? Like when they just kind of hang out, they're like, hey, let's just noodle and jam for a little bit. And they just go into these things. And you're like, God damn, the talent, the creativity, the genius that these guys have in them. It's just phenomenal. And to put that on full display without a net in front of 40,000 people at 11 o'clock at night.
Hold on,
I was
Kev,
wondering like how.
No, I'm going to answer your question. You asked me a question. You were so worried I wasn't going to let you talk, and then you asked the question. I don't think that people would go to see just the jam. As fun as it is, I think it needs to be isolated because having a long jam tied to songs and what we're in and everything is a very big part and a special part of it. That said, being unencumbered and uninhibited by any structure of any song and just jamming is why that I think was so special. All right, what were you gonna say?
I was wondering how Trey had it set up, whether he had the guitar on the stand like he used to for Horse.
He did.
The acoustic
Yeah,
guitar.
there's videos of
Is
it.
that what they were doing? Okay.
Yeah.
Because he was almost playing, you know, it sounded like it was one and then it was the other. I mean, there was no, I'm taking a guitar off and putting another one on. Very nice.
No, he just walk over to it, and do it. So it was very cool though. I mean, just I kept thinking that too, like those visuals and what was going on. You're just like, man, they could put out a whole album of like shit like this. They could just do it like they could do this all the time and have this. Like they're just it's phenomenal. And that's always been the dream too that we always talk about is why not have like a one song tweezer set where it's just a tweezer 45-minute jam or something, right? Like it's just one song with this jam. And this was sort of that dream finally come true. And like you got this incredible just jam. Which I
loved the way they set it up too before they actually even came on and started playing, having the recorded ambient like synth music. It was very lulling and like a lullaby. Kind of got everybody because we were all so hyped. The energy in the place was through the roof for First Tube, and then everybody was just kind of like hanging out and talking. And they had this very gentle music going on, and I remember like feeling like very calm, you know, and serene, and I think and the timing of it was really kind of perfect to transition into what it was, because I think if they started it sooner and didn't have that transition, it would have been more jarring to go into just weird, you know what I mean? Like I think they needed to get everybody calm so that way they could do the ambient thing and be patient with it and have people receive it well. And then eventually rip it.
You almost couldn't tell when they stopped playing the in-house music and they started playing, because it was like almost so seamlessly that same tonal sound, you know. It was like, and the graphics were kind of starting on the screen with like those weird ins and outs of things, and you're kind of like, okay. And then you kind of they showed them coming on stage, and then you're like, oh, okay, it's about to start. But then when it started, it sounded exactly kind of like what we were listening to before it started building into it. It was perfect. It was really cool.
Now, do we know if that's something that they recorded, what was being played in the beginning, or if it was somebody else's recording?
I don't know. It sounded very much like, you know how Trey did that thing for the lobby music at the Sphere, and those were all his. It kind of sounded like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was something similar to that they pre-recorded and then were playing to match into what they then started the jam with.
And then they ended it with the VCR screen. Stop.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Square.
Play to stop. That was cool.
Little really exclamation point on it for you there.
No, I don't think they were playing from the very beginning. Tony. I think that was the very beginning was a pre-recorded thing, and then because it was somewhat seamless, but there was
was
a no,
definitely,
like there
yeah,
was a point where like the loop kind of faded out and the band faded in.
yeah,
But it almost sounded like it was just keyboards, like synthesized drums with like synths, not fully
yeah.
acoustic. So,
And
but
Dave,
it
to
was
your point,
awesome.
it was very cinematic, and even the graphics and the things. It was really cool to see PHiSH kind of go into that realm of like having more video graphics and more, not quite like the Dead does with their screens and stuff, but having more cinema looks and more visualizations than just Kuroda's lights. It was a really cool, different thing to see from PHiSH. Like that was really cool.
Yeah, but let's not go
Right.
back to 13 with the screens and stuff. I
No,
remember when they
no,
did that, I was like initially I was like, this is gonna be great to have all that. And then it wasn't. Like it's
no.
good to have it
And
on
then it
special
wasn't.
occasions
No,
as
it
like
worked for this. It worked
yeah,
for
for
very
this,
much what this
right.
was.
And like I
Like
hope in
that's
the future they
yeah,
do things like that occasionally, but like
right,
you want your bread and butter shows to be,
right. The
just
lights are the
Kuroda.
lights. Yeah, and you don't need to tell the stories with the visuals, but on that kind of thing, it was the cinematic feeling. So it felt like you could have the visuals there to go with the music. It was great.
All right, I'm gonna
They
take a
said,
comment then since
yeah,
you took a comment.
Yeah. Take a
Um,
comment break.
we got lucked out because we went with 6 people and we were on the end of the row and the opposite side of us, right? Like how they were back to back was cut short because the road was on like an angle. So they weren't initially putting cars there. So we had a very, very big area. Um, it seemed to me if you had a group, these this layout made for very cool hidden valley type of sites. But if you were individual, it looked extremely cramped and claustrophobic and like in a single row. So I could see why this would be a complaint if you didn't come in with a big group. I do think that it worked all right though for us and for other people. Some people, dude, some of those sites we walked by were insane. It had like 15 easy ups tied together, and all the tents had like tunnels to it. It
I
was
will
pretty
say
wild.
we'll talk about this on Wednesday when we get into kind of the whole overview of like the whole festival, not just the recap. But we have a few things to talk about with walking through the site, the campsite and stuff. And one was I can see where that would be a good point because some of those middle rows of people that got there early were very much crammed in there, parked like right on top of each other. I felt like the further away you got, like where we kind of were, and the later you got there, the more space was
Yeah,
between
they didn't
even
give
the
a
cars.
shit.
Yeah, they were just kind of like throwing us in and letting us go. And then the second thing was, as Tim and I walked around a lot, we kept joking that we needed to do a show on lot about the best, like almost like an extreme makeover type thing or something, and interview people
Yeah, like
about their
cribs.
setups. Because like cribs, because there was some. We'll talk about it tomorrow night with some of the setups, but there was some people went all out, and I got to compliment some of y'all with your creativeness and your ideas of your tents and campsites and stuff. They were phenomenal. So like it was, yeah. No, we'll talk
Yeah,
about all
well
that shit
done.
tomorrow, but it was fun. Or on Wednesday, it was fun.
we will look into what company did the visuals and that kind of thing and have an answer for you Wednesday when we're live.
Yeah.
Again. I don't know none of us know off the top of our head. And also that was our middle of our the weekend. Saturday, I tweeted out greatest fish show ever. A lot of people were giving me poop about it, but I mean, I feel like
Kev, you didn't just tweet that. As soon as the
No.
show ended, you were screaming it from our location. Greatest fish show ever! Greatest fish show ever!
I was feeling it. I was feeling it, man. I was feeling it.
You're allowed to feel that the night of, right? Like any show I see is the greatest show I've seen while I'm seeing it. But then once it's over, you're like, this was a really, really, really good show though. I had
There's
a
only
lot.
one song that I wouldn't have had in here. I
And
loved
liked it.
every other song.
I
thought it
had
fit well.
2, but
Let's get into it. Mike's hydrogen pog, a straight through. Like as soon as it started, Kev's like, I hope you get your straight through run. I was like, me too. And in its purest form, such a beautiful thing. Mike's hydrogen pog. Like when they just all go together, it's fucking awesome. I was so excited, so happy. Great opener.
yeah, very stellar groove. Got to give us traditional at the festival, and I think it worked really well.
And we could pause another Mondegreen for you.
Yeah. And Mike,
Yep.
Mike sounding as good as he did, and the mix being so good, and the big bombs and the big bass just permeating through the festival grounds worked really well with the groove. I don't remember the theme. I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember it. I don't know. I think it was good. I'm sorry.
It was a little early for like a cool down kind of thing, but I just closed my eyes, swayed to it, and then they delivered you to probably my favorite of the 3.0 anthems, Plays On. It's just such a fun song, great lyric. It had a pretty solid jam in it.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
dance. Everybody was really like high energy because there's a lot of chompers at festivals, right? With how good the audio was there, it didn't really bother me. But this was one of those moments, the Blaze on Jabu out, where I felt like everybody just kind of shot up and like was just full party and dancing. There was a lot of like yelling and like, the turning, like this is awesome. But like I feel like for me, at least around where we were, the energy was just through the roof. The second
I
half
was
of the set.
so impressed with the lack of chompers. I just thought, I don't know if it was just our area and the crew
Well, we had a
was
good
good
crew.
at what they did, but I gotta tell you, even walking around when I'd wandered, there weren't a lot of people talking. Like, I mean, you could get in the back, in the back areas, and where it's okay to like hang out and talk because you're in the back festival areas. But I was pretty impressed with everybody there, just sort of shutting the fuck up and watching the shows. Like, it was pretty amazing. Like, I was very impressed. Yeah, I mean, I will say the theme came in a little early. To your point, Kev, like it was kind of an odd place for it. After the opening salvo, you're like, oh, we're slowing it down already. It had a decent jam in it, like it always does. It kind of like elevated that song into that point, which I thought Blaze On after it was a really good follow, or like in out of it was a really good follow up because you were kind of already in that zone. Blaze On is still growing on me. Like I'm still not a huge fan of that song. It's just it's a fun song when everybody's like it fit the moment for sure. Everybody was very into it. They did a great jam with it. I thought the Jabu after it was perfectly placed. I thought that was like it nailed it because everybody was already in that yes, and then you drop in that funky bitch, not really funky bitch, but you drop in that Jabu and it just gets like yes, like everyone just got it. It was great.
The theme, they couldn't decide whether they were playing the funky version or the regular version in the beginning, it felt like.
Yeah.
I don't remember that, but
yeah,
they started.
You remember the
I think
Jabu?
where it was.
I was gonna say, I remember the Jabu nailed it. It was killing.
Yeah.
My highlight of the set was this 46 days. I think it was perfect for a Saturday show. Give you that like hard rocker, but still kind of jamming. I don't know if you guys liked it, but I thought it was really, really exceptional.
Yeah, I mean,
we are insane, Joshua. We are insane, Joshua. Trust me.
Well, it was hard. It's hard. We were all at. Oh, hold on. I want to pause for a second because I was thinking about this a lot. We do the recaps every show, and a lot of times we listen very intently with notes and try to be as objective as possible, right? And we're doing it through Couch Tour. This was an experience where all three of us were there, and there was a lot of sensory input, like more than any normal show. And there were a lot of other variables, we'll say. And so if we're doing is reliving our experience and telling you our opinions of it. I have no doubt that the light was great. I actually remember liking it just in a different space. But I want to just make that clear. It's not like we're saying you have to like this or dislike this or agree with us or disagree with us. And we are not the authority by any means. We just experienced something and we're sharing our experience and that's where that is.
And where you're at in the moment, like where I was at on my trip in the moment, like I did not need light at that moment. Like I needed to go pee and like take care of myself. And like that was Light and Caspian were the two songs that I could do that during because I'm just not that high on them. Yeah, the Caspian jam was great. Where they got to and I thought was fantastic. I'm just like Caspian, meh. So whatever.
Oh,
great.
He's behind on the stream anyway. He's not even watching us.
Oh yeah.
That's fine. Hopefully he'll get.
And I did tweet that Caspian was boss. So anyway, Evolve you could do without.
So glad that my phone was down. Worrying about tweet. What was it? Evolve.
I said Evolve. We could have done without maybe.
Some people like Evolve.
Yeah, I mean, you knew you were going to get one over the weekend. I mean, it's their new song. Like, it's the title track. You're going to get it. So where's it going to go? I don't know. I didn't think it was in a bad place there. I thought it works there. I still think it's a fun song. I like it even more with all the hate it gets from so many people. I'm like, what? So whatever. I thought it was fun. I still like that song a lot. It's so fun. And then let's talk Meat Stick for a second here, because we were with some people dressed in their hot dog gears who were very excited to get the Meat Stick. Tim had leaned over to me earlier in the set and said, if they play Meat Stick, this place is going to go nuts. And Tim happened to go to the bathroom right before Meat Stick started.
Oh, I happened to go during Evolve. I have no idea how that happened.
So he missed the beginning of Meat Stick when our entire section went absolutely bonkers. And seeing that energy and the smiling and the happiness on just all of their faces made it so much more fun. And watching everybody dance to it. Again, you're going to play it at a festival because you want to see 40,000 people dancing your dance to the song and singing along with you. So much fun, so ridiculous. This is almost, like the guy we were commenting about, silly, fun festival fish. This was a little bit of that in this moment too, right? Like you kind of got that silliness, that fun, and
I thought
it's just one of those things that I'll always remember that moment. And even Tim setting up, being like, if they do it, it's going to go crazy. And then sure enough, it went crazy. And I was looking around for him, and it was then they came back from the bathroom. I was like, you totally called it. Like you missed the excitement of everybody going nuts when it started, but it was really fun. Good for you, Daniel. You're on my good. Daniel's one of my favorite watchers now. He likes Evolve too. And Nathan, exactly, Nathan.
So I'm going to be real critical here for a minute, and I'm not apologizing. The Bowie was super fucked up. Trey missed his entries like 5 times and never got back on. And it's fine. It's still Trey. I still love him, everything. But I heard a couple people trying to be like, oh, the Bowie was great. And I'm sorry, but this is not a good Bowie. And I wanted it to be a good Bowie because I loved this set. I thought this set was fantastic. And it ended with the only great thing about the Bowie was eventually they hit the climax, and the end kind of got there. But the whole composed section in the middle was just off.
But maybe they weren't trying to play it composed. Maybe they were doing a riff on it. They were Mondegreening it.
No, that's not what it was, though.
It was.
The end of Bowie, for my money, the end of Bowie is the greatest thing ever. I just love that so much.
And they did I thought they nailed the re-entry and the close of Bowie, which was good, Kev, which is like the part we always talk about as being like the best. But like the beginning and the middle section, there were definitely some flubbage and some and you're trying so hard to just, you're like, it's Bowie. Like, I just want to stay in the Bowie, but at the same time, you're like, ew, ugh. Like record scratches, like when the record scratches, how you're listening to it, like, ignore that. Like, ignore that, keep going.
I don't hear that in the moment. When I'm there hearing it, I'm just like, they're playing Bowie.
I know you're not listening to the music the same way. But my point about it, I guess, is like, if you're gonna write and play a song that is that intricate and written to be played as exact way, you need to hit it the exact way. It's like all these other songs, especially a lot of these 3.0 songs, they're vibe songs. You could play Fuego 15 different ways and it'll be a great Fuego. You could play Blazon. And honestly, even a lot of the 1.0s, you could play a lot of those songs 10 different ways with different feels and they're going to sound good. But a song like Bowie, you have to hit. And it's the same reason Gaiudi always, has suffered. It has to sound the same. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't have to. I'm not an authority. I'm just saying that that style of song, when there's a little flub, it's super noticeable. And when you string together 20 flubs in a row, it gets really fucking sloppy. Take it for what you want. Like, it didn't ruin the show for me or anything. But I mean, there's no way you could tell me that wasn't a sloppy Bowie.
Yeah.
Like it just was.
Totally. And I think to your point, sometimes in the moment you don't care. You're so lost in the fucking music and getting the fact that you're hearing a Bowie and you're hearing a song you want to hear and they're playing it over a song you didn't like. I'd rather hear a bad Bowie than Drift While You're Sleeping in that spot. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, right? So I'd rather complain about a not so great Bowie or a halfway decent Bowie than a great Drift While You're Sleeping any day of the week. So with that said, we're going to be hypercritical. We're gonna be
Mark safe from Drift While You're Sleeping.
Yeah,
going to
it's
be
true.
critical at times about some things here and there and some songs, and it's just because we love them so much and like what we expect. Expectations are so high, but you're still getting a set closing Bowie. You're still getting that epic closing of that song, which they
Yeah,
did
the big
crush and
climax.
nail. Yeah, and that's awesome. And let's not forget that the night before they nailed Fluffhead. That Trey doesn't always nail either. That sometimes can be really rough and not always be there. So I'm going to give him props where they're due, and he crushed the fluff, and so he kind of messed up a little bit in the Bowie here and
The
there. But I'm
Fluff
going
and
to
the
take it
Reba
anyway.
were perfect. So that's
Yeah.
why my expectations were so high.
Yep.
All right, let's
Yeah.
put away this dead horse and get into this second set, which for me is the set of the weekend.
So I did something different, which I don't normally do, but I wanted to take advantage. So at set break, I went up and I ran into Megan from Osiris and Ryan and a bunch of that crew. So we were over by the heliosphere, all of us, for the whole thing. I wanted to get up, and so for 2001 Oblivion, I think during Disease is when I pieced out, but it was fucking cool as hell up there. It was pitch black though, and it was a little claustrophobic for my taste. We had a lot more dance room by us, but the 2001, the energy and how everybody just instantly was like fired up and dancing was just really incredible. I mean, I'm sure it was like that everywhere, but I'm glad I chose that moment to go up close. I mean, we weren't close; it was by the soundboard, but like a lot closer than we had been.
It's the best drop.
Fantastic opening pair. I thought the 2001 had a little meat on it, and you got the super space funk dance party. That place you saw the whole place lift up when they started it. Everybody started dancing and jumped up at once. Beautiful moment.
Well,
and I thought Oblivion was a great place to land it.
I thought every time, the two times it has the big build and release in 2001 was just the energy and the dancing and the explosion of everybody and the lights on top of that it was a phenomenal way to open that set and get everybody going. And it was just incredible. Dropping into the Oblivion after it was a perfect second song to go there. I thought really made sense. It was fantastic.
A little frustrating that they're not jamming out Oblivion. I think that a great jam vehicle and a nice spacey jam after that 2001 would have been fantastic. And I think they were looking for it because the next two songs with Disease and Tweezer were both big jam vehicles. So I feel like Trey and them and company were like wanting it. They didn't find it in Oblivion. You're right, G. Oblivion's a great song. It didn't go where it used to, where I kind of wanted it to, but
like Ghost the other night, Oblivion is the song that suffered in this set in order for them to get everything else in. But I think Oblivion could suffer in this set for that Down with Disease Tweezers into the sense that 3-song run is some of the most brilliant playing I've ever heard them do.
Yeah,
it was incredible. Yeah, I mean, even the Oblivion, had it gone longer, I think it would have then stepped on some of those toes of the next 3 songs. But I know what you're saying, you wanted to, but I think where it was set up in this place, it was a good place for it to be a more compact version of it to then, because then all of a sudden, this Disease is just the Disease, the Tweezer, and the Sense. All 3 of these songs have the most epic jams in them, and all 3 of those jams are so different from each other. It's just incredible what they can do inside these songs and where they can take them. I was blown away. I was blown away with the Disease. I was freaking out when they dropped in the Tweezer, and then that Tweezer jam, I was just like, where are we going? This is insane. And then to come out of it and drop into the Sense, you're just like, okay, now we're going to get another incredible jam. And that one's jam was just this other thing that led into the Boogie On that you were just like, where? Mind blowing, just absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah,
the Disease I felt like kept blooming, like you watch one of those visualizer things that just keeps going out, and it kept pulling you in, and then dropped you into the Tweezer, and again it was like 2001 all over again. The place exploded when they dropped into Tweezer. Everyone was like, Saturday night Tweezer party, this is it.
Well, who expects a Tweezer after a Disease? Those are that's like the 2 big jam vehicles, the most traditional big jam vehicles. There's new ones, but to put them together in a second set is nuts. Like, that is a very crazy but awesome move. And like you're saying, neither one of them really suffered. They both went somewhere and had, you know, had some meat to them. So yeah,
and
Sense was the
perfect,
best though. The
right?
Sense Jam
Perfect,
was
perfect.
the best. By the
That
way,
was
for
incredible.
those of you wondering, Kevin in real life doesn't interrupt anyone. He's very calm and not calm, but
I dance. I
it was
dance
a
around. I do my own thing. I run into people. That's my thing. I like being a social butterfly there, you know?
yeah.
it was just, I mean, those 3 songs, that run in that set was some of the best PHiSH.
I mean, no more perfect
I
place to
mean,
land Tweezer. You never would have thought that's where you should land Tweezer, but that Tweezer, there was nowhere else he could have gone in. It might have been the best sense I ever heard.
well,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you this too about all 3 of these jams. We talked a lot about it, and you guys talked mostly about it because I was only on a couple of them. But the after shows this summer about the Allman Brothers jams that they kept getting into, and where a lot of those jams would sort of end up or fall into these blissful Allman Brothers sounding jams. We got maybe a little bit of that this weekend. Not a lot at all. No big jams with the Allman Brothers sound at all. We did
Everything's
get
right. I think the night before had a little
a
section that was
little bit of
Almany,
it,
but it
yeah.
wasn't as much as
But
it
I didn't
had
get
been.
into it. What we did get was a lot of the breakdowns, the bleeps and bloops, the synthesized, the into these like really hard, almost dark areas that then would come out in these like huge blissful build moments that came out of them. And I thought that was just phenomenal. Like what they
Perfect for the setting too.
yeah, the jamming that they did this weekend was so much different than a lot of what you heard all summer tour. Like, sure, they played some of the songs again and stuff, but the jams were so different and so not evolved, but just so layered and so much more complex than I feel like what they were doing in summer tour on some of them. It was phenomenal.
I think the Boogie On was one of the highest peaks of joy I had
Again,
seen collectively.
everyone dancing. Everyone.
Well, I would, and maybe this is a silly distinction, but let me just throw it out there and see if this makes sense to you. I think the blow-ups before were hype, where it was like, oh, they're doing this, we're about to have this, oh, we're here. By the time Boogie On, it was just elation, right? Like joy from everything we had just done, the disease, the tweezer, that sense jam, and to have this really fun, dancey, funky song and have the energy. Oh my God, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that night. Holy, right? It was just huge smiles across the whole place, just dancing and just perfect level of joy everywhere you looked.
I really thought we were going to get a Sneak and Sally. I kept thinking in the back of my head
Was this
because
where
they
he
had
kept
teased
teasing
it a
it?
little bit. Huh?
Yeah.
Was this where he kept teasing it? At one point, I felt like Mike teased it a bunch of
That was
times.
the
But
first night. I think it was the first night or the second night, which is what put it in the back of my head.
right.
But you and I'll take it any day of the week. Trey singing Stevie Wonder. I'll take it.
What I
He
thought
got it.
was great too was the Boogie On kind of matched back to the 2001, right? Like you started the set with this boogie groove and these like get downs, and then you went into these songs that had incredible jams and not so much funk and like boogie to them. But then you come out of that sense and drop into Mike's bass and the bow, and everyone just starts, oh man, we're right back into like fucking let's go, right? Like you're on these highs and these insane jams that you just did, and then it's like release of the Boogie On, and then you come out of
place,
that.
right? But it's perfect place to land you with Boogie One because it's a song everyone knows. It's a safe space. We took you to all these weird, dark places and out into space and Mars, and then we're going to give you Boogie On Reggae Woman, which is a song that everyone knows by heart.
Well, then you get to drop into a Carini to close it, and you get that masterful dark start, which then kicks into this like great little jam, which then just like is again a fantastic way to end that show. And you're like, oh, perfect. Like, give me the Carini. Like, yes, like it was such a great.
This was probably one of the best sets of the whole festival. I thought no real downsides or low spots to it.
Nothing at all. Nothing.
And then
the most fantastic encore.
You want to take it, Kev?
Before-
Go ahead.
No. Before you poop on that first song, it was a fantastic.
I'm not
choice
gonna
for an
poop
encore.
on it. If there's gonna be a placement, I personally had caught a lot of number lines. So yes, I have talked ill of it in the past. That's not to say I hate the song. It's just not my favorite song to catch. Kev kind of like come up to me. He's like, "Oh, don't shit." I'm like, "It's fine," but I gotta. Yeah, he was like very projecting this onto me. I was like, "It's whatever. It's fine." But if you're going to play
I
number
came up
line,
and I said, I came up and I was like, "This is our theme song all those years because we're gonna hit 5 years," and you were like,
but if you're gonna play number line at the start is the way to play it because that
Yeah.
guitar strum into the pickup always feels like a ripcord, and it was a lot of a step down in energy from the second set, but it didn't matter because where it went to, like if they only did number line, it would be I think a huge disappointment. But it was almost like a breather, and then the true end of the show, which I do think was the best ending of any of the nights. The have a yem there just felt so satisfying because to see what you were saying before about ending early every night. This was an early one again, and it was kind of like, really, we're already in the encore. Like they were playing fantastic, but like it definitely wanted more. And I think getting You Enjoy Myself there really just filled up that last little bit, and it sounded really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to get a number line, getting it in the top spot anywhere is the best place for it because it just sort of like opens that, and then you still get that jam in it, which it always gets to. It's just one of those songs where again, get through it, get to the middle section, get that jam in there, and you're like grooving, you're going, and it works in that first slot because you know there's things coming after, and it's not just closing it. So I was a little shocked that they dropped into the yem. That was not what I was expecting there, but it was awesome. Like it was so good, and it matched up again with the rest of the set and the show so good. I mean, you're getting a tweezer, a sense, a disease, a yam. Like you're getting massive jammy songs in this show, which just doesn't always happen. So I mean, this was really, really a Saturday night show for the ages with some of these songs, like opening with the mics and like I mean, it was really epically done and epically played, and the yem was so tasty where it was, right? Like a yem reprise, what more do you want to close it out? Like it really didn't matter what they played before it.
Send a shout out to him for doing the reprise with the tweezer in the same night instead of the, hey, let's play it tomorrow night where everyone knows it's coming. You didn't expect them. You figured it was the vocal jam. Good night. Thank you. You know, you can't stay here. Drive safe.
Festival vocal jam. Can't beat it.
I like that they had been going back after the vocal jam though, and there was the small part of me that was like, go back in, because again, like how early it was. It's just it was a good it was the good length show. It wasn't that, but they started all these shows so early.
At 7,
like what was it? Like 11 o'clock they were ending?
Well, you know why they did that though, because they wanted to have the DJ sets. I think that's why
that was cool.
7:30 to 6:30.
We'll talk about that tomorrow night when we talk more about
Wednesday
like the
night.
overall festival. Wednesday, I keep thinking tomorrow night, but Wednesday when we talk about the overall festival thing, I think it was an interesting. We'll have opinions on this because I think it's an interesting thing to
talk about it now, though. I mean, this is a Mondegreen.
Cut the shows short so you can have a late night, not even late night, but a dance party. And I will say, Saturday night, it went a lot later than it did any of the other nights. Like Saturday night, it was a long dance, like it went till what sounded like 2 a.m. in the campsite. Like it felt like that dance party went on and on and on, which is awesome. But it's like, do you give up them coming on at like 8 and playing until 11 or 12 at night so that you can have a DJ set and a dance party after the show? Like, is that, do you want more fish or do you want to have a dance party? Like, I like the dance parties. I thought they were really
want more
fun.
fish. I want more fish.
But it wasn't it wasn't cut short though. It was moved up. And the reason I liked it though is because not everybody is young and in their 50s like you guys. Right. No, but I mean, it's not an age thing, but some people, you know, it was good to get back to camp or whatever. And then other people to stay up late. I don't know. Like, I hear what you're saying. I too wanted them to play later, but I had a good time chilling after the show. Right. Like, you didn't have to leave. You just sat there and then the music came on and you kept it going.
A
I
couple
don't know.
people, a couple people earlier asked about, does it need to be 4 days with 2 sets and a secret set, or should they go back to fewer days, more sets? And I really think beforehand I would have told you I want 2 days with 7 sets, but as hot as it was on Sunday, I do not want to have to stand through an afternoon set because
No, I
it,
agree.
it took away some of the enjoyment. We sat in the air conditioning in the Leah Fordham Theater for a little bit, the 3 of us, because we were just melting.
No, daytime sets are rough in that kind of temperature. Like unless it's like cooler, but every day there was hot. Like regardless of the day, it was hot during the day, and like the evenings too. Like we've been saying, that sunset point is such a perfect point to be playing during anyway. And then the nights were so beautiful that, to me, I just always picture the festival being like, we're in this place. The time constraints shouldn't matter. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of out.
Right.
Granted, you're not open out in the wide here, but like still, it just makes you feel like that because you're camping. You're all here. It's like, why aren't we playing till midnight? Why aren't we pushing 1 a.m. with the festival? Because that's why we're all here, right? Like it just felt like such a like the blue hairs that go to dinner at 4 o'clock. Like you just felt like, why are we getting 7 o'clock fish and the set's over at 10:30 and the encore's over by 11? You're just kind of like, this is so weird. Like,
Well, they
And
are,
then-
in their 60s, but
Right. And then we got moved up to 1 o'clock on a Sunday, and
are
nobody
you
knew
skipping
what
a
was going on.
Sunday now?
I was trying to.
but I think we're just still talking. I mean, I don't know. It's a weird thing. Let us know what you guys think, and we'll discuss it a little bit more on Wednesday too.
I will let
about
you
whether,
know what I think right now.
whether
I'm
you're
going to
in
say
favor of
I think
DJs or not.
I think that it doesn't matter what time they're playing; it's how they're playing, and they felt like they were playing to the clock. There were
Yeah.
times where the
I agree.
sets felt condensed or squished, or things were cut short because they wanted to hit that 11 o'clock mark. If they did 11:37 and it still wasn't midnight, but it felt like it had that space to breathe and have the festival feel to it, I think it wouldn't have been a problem. Like I don't need to be out listening to Fish till 2 in the morning for it to be a good show, but
Right.
it felt very structured, the same way you would get at MSG or
Dick's.
or
It
Dick's.
felt very Dick's to me. Is
Like
what it felt
Dick's,
like.
yes,
it felt
exactly.
it felt, because we talked about beforehand how you get festival shows and festival sets and things like that, where you just kind of expect a little bit extra and a little bit bust outs and funny shit, and like the shows go long because they've done these crazy things in the middle of them. This felt very, like, to your point, Tim, planned out, structured, done like almost like how you do shows when you know you have the curfew and like what you can squeeze in there. That
was the big difference. I don't think it's fair to say if it was early or late. I think it's just that it was constrained. All right,
Yeah.
Kev, let's pretend like you did your awesome segue here, and we'll go on to the last
Well,
day.
he just did mention festival sets, and we didn't realize it was a festival set till what, maybe Isabella, because you thought Jin was going to end his set.
Yeah, nobody knew what was going on this whole time because even when we're in the middle of it, people were, speculating, oh, they'll do a second set. Some people were saying it'll be a really, really long first set and then a short second set, or a really, really, really long single set until it started raining. I think all of the expectations and speculation and confusion did a disservice to what in reality I thought was a very, very strong single set. This was especially because they've had some not great single set shows in the past, and I thought this one, for what it was and what we talk about the situation and if the situation was fair or right and what the insurance company decided everything, but specifically about the music for this set and what we got, I couldn't be happier. I thought the music was fantastic.
And Trey looked like Jerry with the sunglasses. He had his head
so
down.
much.
It was crazy. Party time. Perfect opener.
You said that. You were like, Trey looks like Jerry. And I was like, no, he doesn't. I looked up at the screen. I was like, fuck, he really does. I was like, he looks exactly like him.
Oh, man. Great opener. Perfect opener.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just to jump on that, the crappiest part was not knowing that it was going to be them keeping that from.
Yeah. Although it was cool because I thought Jin was about where we're going to jump around a little bit, but Jin was about where the set would have ended if it was going to be a traditional show. And then the Isabella they go into, that I was like, oh, that's the bonus, because it's sometimes they tag on a big cover to close. So that was like, all right, this is cool. Nice closer. We'll get a second set. It was the simple that was like, wait a sec, what? Why are they doing simple now? Like a jam vehicle in that spot. So I there was potential to play with that and to keep adding and adding and adding, but unfortunately that's not what they did. They kind of just
I got so
closed out.
excited when we hit 90 minutes because I was like, I wanted to lean over to Scott Marks, who was sitting with us this day, and I wanted to be like, what's their longest first set that they've ever played minute-wise, excluding a festival? Like, what's the record? You know what I mean? Because I was just curious. But then after that, 2 songs later, I was like, oh, this is just what we're not getting set, you know? So.
Yeah.
You know, and Axela. All right, so we got the
One
one
and
when
a
I like
half.
we got the like I call it the 1.5, yes. And I'm so happy that the last 2 they've decided to go back to the story lyrics instead of the abstract by the pool lyrics, and adding the end one in, I feel like completes it. I feel like this is the final evolution of Axela, is them doing one with the 2 ending.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I think it's the perfect version of it.
I
Um,
love it
I
so
thought
much. God.
I thought
So good.
Maze was really, really good. I was kind of that was another one that I was hoping for. And when we were talking at camp about what was still on the table, that was the one that I was like, I really hope we get Maze. So to get that early in the set was very exciting. This was about
Yeah.
where we started melting.
Yeah.
I want to be fully transparent, because like if there's some fog in our recaps, this was when I guess Kev was already back in there, and T and I were like, T, you came with me, right? Or
I
did I
was
meet you
sitting
there?
outside. If you sat outside of the
Oh
Lee
no,
Fordham
we did it
Hall,
independently. Kev did it, and then Frank and I did it. So we all went over to Lee Fordham's to just like. So if you weren't there and don't know, this was the comedy hall. It was like a big like circus type tent with air condition, and we were like, we need to. I was getting overheat. I'm a big dude, and like, so Kev was already there. He had broken off and was there. I with our buddy Frank that was there were like, hey, you want to go do it? And we got there, and then I turn over and I see T there. I was like, T, come here. So all 3 of us ended up getting air conditioned after Maze around Steam, I guess.
It was so hot because those first 3 songs, like they came out, Party Time was whatever, but Axel and Maze got you going, and we were going, and then they dropped into
moving.
Steam, and I was like, it's too hot. Like I gotta cool down, or I'm not gonna make it. So
And the
when
cloud
over there,
cover disappeared, so we were under direct
Yeah.
sunlight,
right?
which was like a lot.
Overcast is your friend. Let me tell
and
you.
I think there were 4 total places: Lee Fordham's, the
Beer hall.
the market area, and the foundation, and there was one other area that had air conditioning. And let me tell you, that AC was cranking. Like I did the foundation on Friday night for Friday night show, and they had a whole tent set up with the AC in there, and it was actually colder in there than you'd walk in there and you'd walk out of there freezing so bad you'd have to get outside just to warm up again. It was so cold. Like I'm not even kidding with you. It was so cold in there, but it felt great. Like you really needed those.
How cold was it?
It was so cold.
So cold.
It was
Ice cold.
Ice cold. But it was great. I mean, all of a sudden we all ran into each other in there. The only thing Lee Fordham's was missing was they had a TV on, but it just had the Mondegreen screen on. Why they weren't streaming the show in there too for everybody was a huge miss. Like that was a giant miss.
I wouldn't have left. I would have couch toured. At the festival.
Who cares? Like it would have been a perfect thing. You could still watch it. Like they should have had the closed caption on in there because you could sit in there and watch it and not get heat stroke outside. Because I mean it was hot. It was hot.
So that for me lasted 3 songs. I don't know where you guys were at, but I basically watched Martian Monster and Bag, Steam Monster and Bag from right in front, so I could hear pretty well. But
we went out for Bag. Remember, we went outside.
Oh no, we did leave for Bag, and then we were like,
and then
we're gonna go back and get a little bit more.
Yeah. Then
so let's talk about let's talk about Bag having a jam again. It was a really nice Bag. I think that's what drew us out. We were like, all right, cool Bag. You wait to see whether it's going to give it to you or not. When it does, you walk back out into the heat.
Yeah,
I really thought those first, I mean, Axel Maze were fantastic. Steam had its moments, but we were in the thing trying to cool off. Martian Monster kind of had that 2001 Get Down vibe, which I loved. Going into the Bag, I love Bag being so much later in the set was so much fun that it was like sometimes that's the opener, right? And you're like, whenever you get a bag later, you're like, okay, this is so much fun because it almost feels like now's the show kind of kicking into gear or whatever. Then they dropped into Sigma, which you're like, nah, okay. But I think when they went into Rift, and I told you guys this too, when they hit Rift, for me, this is when the set took off. Like this is just from here through, it was just phenomenal. Those songs above it, yes, they were good. Like Maze was awesome again, and Axel was awesome to hear. But I thought
Sigma Oasis is growing on me. I really enjoyed it yesterday.
I'm happy to hear that.
Someday Evolve will grow on you too. Then
probably
Rift, though.
Rift there was Paige's song. That's where Paige got to sing half the song.
And got a little bit more Paigey in there. Like, I know I leaned in at Steely Tom and I was like, hey, they're not going to really let him sing a full song, but him and Trey can, like, fuck around on this one. And I thought the Rift into Stash was great. So much fun.
Rift on was good enough to give the energy, and I don't want to overstate the heat and everything and like sound like a wimp, but like it was hot. It was uncomfortably hot. But from Rift on, I don't know if we got a cloud cover or if it was just the music was so good.
The sun started going behind the tower. The sun started going behind the tower. Too.
Everything at this moment, right? The weather, but the music from Rift on was just, it felt really good. Like it was just a very strong end of this set. I think the Stash was phenomenal.
Well, how was the Rift, Tim? Because you're a Rift purist. So did they nail the Rift? We've talked about Fluffhead. They did. Bowie, they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, on the spectrum of Bowie to Fluffhead at Mondegreen, right? Because I think Fluffhead was the cleanest thing they played and Bowie was the sloppiest thing they played. It was definitely in the Fluffhead side of it, right? Like, I wouldn't say it was as perfect, but I was very, very...
I love Rift.
Yeah.
It's the story of my life. Stash.
Yeah, that's a great example, Kev. That is another song that you have to hit or else it's very obvious, right? Like, those songs you need to play and hit the notes, and they did. Yeah, Stash was
love Stash.
Sweet. Killed it.
Great summer outdoor. I'm in a field song. You're singing about solar garlic. No one knows what the hell's going on. Love it.
It's very appropriate for a day set too, right? And so is Yamar. Like this, I'm glad that they built the set the way they did, and like it was a very
many covers though. Yamar, to finish it out, Yamar, Timber, Isabella, and Golden Age. We got 4 covers out of the last 6 songs.
Yeah, dude, Timber was awesome. Fishman was possessed and was driving it, and the jam and how creative they got with it. I don't remember hearing a Timber like that in a very long time to like just take it out the way they did. I thought that was very cool.
It sounded great. It was really good. It was an interesting spot for it in there too. Like again, like Yamar fits the festival vibe so well. You know what I mean? Like Yamar's just that festival song. Like it was so perfectly fit in there. It was awesome. Then to drop into the Timber, I was a little taken back at first. I love that. Like it's one of my favorite jams, and it's great. So it felt a little weird in that moment. In that
it's a little darker.
I love it. Yeah, right.
Would have been awesome.
I was very happy.
Yes,
I was very happy with the Timber right there. And you know, you aren't getting Timbers that are 15, 20 minutes anymore, but or ever maybe. But there again, I felt like the time that they had, they used every minute. They got it. They went right into some neat spaces, you know, worked through it and, you know, put a little exclamation on it and then gave us probably for me the highlight of the set.
Was the gin.
The gin.
Oh,
yeah.
You set it up and you sat back.
I know.
Tell us about it.
You'd start talking about the gin. I figured one of you would jump on gin.
I like the gin. I was excited to hear it. That's one of those festival songs that you want. Like I was talking about with the Divided Sky, right? Like festival gin. I guess for me personally, this is where the realization of it coming to a close and the confusion about what the set and some of the emotions, you know, it was a little bit of like, I don't know, because Gin, everything else felt like a day set. Gin was the first one. I was like, they were saving this for a big Sunday night jam. And then there was something that was just like, all right, you know what I mean? Like coming to great moment where you're like, okay, this is
The
what we're dealt.
sun needed to be down. It needed to be at the
Right.
end of a first set that started at 6:30, so the sun was
It
already
would have
down.
been at the Wave of Hope spot.
Timber would have been
Yeah.
your sunset song where it got dark.
Yeah, and it would have been perfect there. So there was not for anything that they did or playing, but like there was a sense of like missing maybe a little bit, but
Yeah.
it was still fun, right? And it was great to see everybody dancing.
I
You
think Dre
know,
was having fun with it. You could tell they were having fun. He was trying to push his glasses up, and then they just let it rip into Isabella. I mean, I think at this point
mean,
they were like, whatever.
well, I feel like there was a lot of this construction in this set was a mixed match of like songs they wanted to play in the first set originally that would have been a first set, and then a couple that would have been in the second set. You know what I mean? It's like at least this one was curated and had thought put into it, unlike that one at Dick's. Was that last year that the rain?
Yeah,
That was
last
at
year's
Dick's?
Dick's, God.
Which was a disaster, as opposed to the one 2 or 3 years ago at Dick's, which was a decent one setter that they kind of put together. This
yeah,
one
I love
felt
the
a lot.
lightning set.
Yeah, the lightning set was very comparable with this one. Like they actually, it felt like they kind of like curated it properly and put the right things in it. Whereas last year's, it just kind of felt like they were just kind of throwing songs at us, like, okay, let's get this one in, let's get this one in. You're like, this is a mess. This felt very, very put together. But again, it just felt like you were missing the construction, like the construction
It
being
wasn't
too
fair. I think they should have let us know it was going to be a single set. They
Yeah,
put
because
out that it
again,
was going to be
Well,
at
they
1:00.
clearly
Why couldn't
knew
they
it.
have
Yeah.
said,
they knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because again, like when you got to that gen, you're thinking, God, this set is awesome, man. We're gonna have like this, like wait till we
right?
get
You
in the
think you got
second
another
set.
2 hours?
Right. You're like, man, what are they gonna put in that second set? And then when they dropped into that Isabella, like what was cool is like Jen, Isabella, and Simple all kind of ended, even though they went into each other, they kind of had that crescendo end moment where you thought, okay, like Fishman's driving to the big thing and then done, and like, okay,
Yeah.
they're gonna walk off stage now. But they finished Jen and went right into dun, like you're like, oh fuck, Hendrix, yes, like let's go. But then you're like, is this gonna close the set then, or are we just like in for it? And then when they ended Isabella with that same thing and dropped right into Simple, that's when you're like, one set. All right, this is like we're
Yeah.
getting one set now. And it's still though, Isabella was like, I mean, that was my first Isabella, and it's not that I chase songs, but I'd always wanted to hear one, and that fucking was awesome. Like that was
I always
awesome.
feel like a late set Simple doesn't have the potential that a second or third song Simple does in a set. You know what I'm saying? It was
Yeah,
so
it was a
late.
weird spot for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It was a very weird spot for it, and
And then of
especially
all
to
things,
end it.
Golden Age? Yeah, and then
And then
Golden
we'll like,
Age, a cover to end the set at a festival? I mean, I
well,
guess
that's
the
what Tim,
lyric
like
does, you know, it's the age of sound and all that.
Tim mentioned though, this was a set where you very much felt the clock. Like you very much felt once you knew, especially that 3:30 was the cutoff. Simple wasn't a set, like you didn't get a Simple jam because you knew like there was a clock going, right? So like
Right.
they couldn't give you the Simple that you really, like they could have given you, or even the gin that they could have given you had it been in the set. Like it was sort of okay, we'll get it in here because we want to play it, but it's not going to be the Simple. Like it's, you know, you're not going to get this big fantastic jam out of it because we can't.
None of these songs on the Sunday are going to be talked about.
No,
I think. Right? They
And
were
where
all
was the Split
fine. They
Open and
were all
Melt?
hit, but like maybe
Where
the
was the
Isabella, but I don't know.
Where
Yeah.
Like
was
I
the
feel
Split
like
Open and Melt? I mean, it was 190 degrees. Where was my Split Open and Melt? Where was the
Well,
Antelope? No, we get a Fuego.
I'll tell you, Tim. I'll tell you the one that'll be talked about will actually be the Fuego because that was actually the best jammed out song I think of the day. Like what they did with the
Yeah.
Fuego was awesome.
I
Single
really,
song
really liked
encore.
Fuego.
But
I
it was
didn't,
a
but
single song.
What is Kev trying to say?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I
Kev,
said
what
it
do
was
you
a
think?
single song. It was just a single song that they were doing. Why didn't we get another song? I mean, there was no
Because
storm.
they
It was
had to be out
beautiful
at a
out.
specific
Because
time.
it was
That's
time.
what we're saying.
Yeah, that's what we were saying. Like the one show where it was one encore was the one show to close the festival where you thought you were going to get a 4-song encore or a 5-song encore to go out on. Like we were thinking we're going to get a Nicholas or a Harpua tonight to like close it out and tell us a story and like give us a whole third set basically because they started early and there's no time limit. Well, we didn't know 3:30 was the cutoff because the lightning was coming.
The lightning that never really came.
Never came.
No. But we got a
Never
rainbow.
came.
There was a
Did you get a
rainbow in the
rainbow?
parking lot. It was
We got a
pretty
little
cool.
bit of rain, but
I
will just go
thought
back
the
real quick.
Fuego was good.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah, it
real
was
quick.
all right.
Gold
I
Mage
just,
rip.
of all
I like the
things,
Gold Mage. I
Hold
thought it
on.
was an interesting way to close. Definitely coming out of the simple, which you wanted more from. I thought it was fun dropping into it because again, you're like another song, yes, and it's like sweet. What's going to be after Gold Mage? Didn't think Gold Mage would close it. It did close it. You're like, okay, that's weird. It's so early. Oh boy, we're gonna have like a huge encore because we have so much time left to come out and do Fuego. And Trey's like, thank you everybody, see you. And you're like, wait, what? Like
Yeah.
what? We're done? It was so anticlimactic, and I think that was also a killer.
Kev, final thoughts.
I was just, it seems strange as the encore. I get it was a joke, Fuego, it's hot, but I don't know. Of all the things, I was like, it kind of went out with a whimper. After Saturday night, and they were just fantastic. It felt like a little bit of a whimper to end on Fuego. That's all. It's my only knock. If that's my only knock, that and Evolve the other night, they did a fantastic 4 shows.
All right. I personally disagree. I think Fuego sounded great, but I get it. Make sure
I mean,
you
I
guys.
get it. But yeah, I thought Fuego was. You go back and listen to it; it was great. But
Yeah,
it was
I
a weird
agree.
way to end it.
Like and subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you Wednesday.
Bye,
Come back
everybody.
Wednesday. We'll talk more.